Excuse me 1 second, Dave.
Well, we're too late out because I think we're streaming any second now.
The auditor's waiting to come in too.
Okay, does he have his name on here?
Steve Wildcotts.
Yep, I see him.
Dave, you might want to cover up the property numbers on the board behind you. That's all I was going to say.
You can see that because it should be invisible.
I saw it a second ago, but now I don't actually. So
Yeah, it goes away.
great. Okay.
I'll be on this screen though anyway.
Wise move.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good.
How is everybody tonight?
Hi, Steve. Doing well.
Everybody staying safe, hopefully?
Yes.
Doing well.
It's really all that matters right now.
Okay, the live stream is working. 2 more minutes, Mayor, and we'll let everybody in. John Weber coming in. Breaking. Hey, Greg. John. I think we got a full house.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone, to the Mayor and Council meeting of July 14, 2020. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as we mourn the lives of 15,582 New Jersey residents whose lives were lost to the pandemic. Thank you.
I wish to announce that the 48-hour notice as required under the Open Public Meetings Act was emailed to the Asbury Park Press, the Coast Star, and the Coaster on January the 9th of 2020, that a copy has been placed on the bulletin board in the borough office, and that a copy has been filed with the borough clerk. Mr. Bunnell? Randy?
Here.
Okay. Mr. Gubatose?
Here.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
Okay. Mayor Engelstad?
Here. We do not have anything for items 5 or 6 on the agenda. So we'll go into item 7, which is the public hearing on the adoption of the 2020 municipal budget. And I'll ask our CFO, Sandy Rice, to take the lead on that discussion. Sandy?
Cindy, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. As the mayor stated, we have on the agenda tonight the adoption of the municipal budget. A public hearing is offered for anyone to weigh in on that budget presentation. One thing that I just thought that is worth mentioning, Bradley Beach qualified for what they refer to as local exam, meaning that the borough did not need the budget to the state for their approval before adopting. I had discussed pretty early on in my time here at the borough that I felt that because I was new and many council members are new and a new administrator, a new auditor, I thought that it would be wise to send that budget to the state for their approval. Over the last week or so, I've been working with both the present auditor and the previous auditor for the borough to answer any concerns that the state had regarding our budget. And just this past Friday, very thankfully, we were approved to adopt our budget. So the budget, as was presented in the budget introduction, it stands. We've made no amendments to that budget. I have the budget Excel sheet that I can share with you if anyone has any questions. I think, if you want, you could start the public hearing and then, we could entertain any questions as they come up.
Okay, so at this time, we're on to agenda item 8, which is public comments on the budget adoption hearing, and there is a 5-minute time limit on those comments. And we'd ask you to let our Borough Administrator David Brown know that you'd like to make a comment.
Ask about the budget.
Please raise your hand electronically. That makes it easier for me to identify. I see Miss Julia Rand raising her hand
Yes.
through the screen. Go ahead and speak, please.
Is that Dave? David?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, how are you? On the budget, this is the budget. This is the budget that was supposed to be approved a while ago. Is that it? How do we know how much the budget is? Is it a request, my request, whatever I requested, did I receive that budget for the Bradley Beach Arts Council?
Yes, you did.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Anyone wishing to speak going once? Anyone wishing to speak going twice?
It may be worth saying that if people are unfamiliar,
I see. I think Mr. TJ Cohen has just raised his hand.
I was just going to explain people how to raise their hand electronically. Just you hit participants and then there's a little button that says raise hand if anybody wants to use that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Cohen.
Yes, I was wondering, there's been all this talk about the state aid for 2020. I was just wondering, Ms. Rice, will there, we talked about this $355,000 number. Is that built into this budget for 2020 that we're going to get state aid, or are they talking about next year, 2021?
Yes, Mr. Cohen, the money, that $355,000 is built into our budget. The state has advised municipalities up until this point that they can go ahead and anticipate, previous year's values for that dollar amount. It is in the budget. We're keeping our fingers crossed that the state does come through with that. Do you have anything to add to that?
Only that the state has been releasing tax levies for adopted budget to the County Board of Taxation to strike the rate, which in my mind leads me to believe that at least that portion will stay whole for calendar 2020. It would have been silly for them to release the rate, including the aid, and then not give all the aid. I mean, that would go against every fiscal policy that anybody could ever think of.
That makes total sense. So I guess between now and January of 2021, we'll get a feel for the budget process, whether that'll be included next year.
That's right. One thing, the way it works, the state has a fiscal year, July 1 to June 30th. Any state aid for calendar year 2021 would be in the state's fiscal year 21-22 budget. Because municipalities receive all their state aid for the calendar year from July to December, the second half of your budget year.
Okay.
So, hopefully, if the world straightens out a little bit, we won't be having this discussion this time next year.
Hopefully. Thank you very much, and thanks for all the good work, you and Ms. Rice. We appreciate it.
No problem.
We have Mr. Larry Fox raising his hand. You gotta unmute yourself, Larry.
Got it.
There you go.
I was looking at the capital appropriations in the context of the purchase of the Methodist Church. What all is included in this budget right now? Or not the Methodist Church, the church on Lorraine. I'm sorry, I didn't mean Methodist Church.
So we made the purchase of that church via the sale of a bond anticipation note. That note closed at the end of March. So we have appropriated in this year's budget interest on that note.
Okay, but are we looking at any additional reserves for studies, for anticipated costs, anything like that?
So in my conversations with the mayor and with the governing body as a whole, there was the decision made that we were not going to put any capital expenditures into the budget other than what was necessary. It was decided right before the budget introduction, kind of late in the budget process, that we would appropriate $30,000 on page 26 under Capital Improvement Fund. And that money would be allocated for some type of preliminary work on that property.
Larry,
Yeah,
I put together a comprehensive budget 10-year plan for the church. If you're interested in taking a look at that.
sure. Well, just maybe just an overall sense of that. What does that look like? Big, top
It's over $4 million over 10 years.
4 million over 10 years. Okay.
And it includes utilities, it includes all kinds of stuff.
Right. Okay.
It's a framework.
Yeah, no, I understand. I was just curious. I just didn't see any real line items, and that's a pretty significant, there was a lot of discussion on that at the end of last year into this year. So, and I know we made the purchase, but I wasn't sure where we were going from there at this point.
I'll send you a copy.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. I do have one other question on sheet 11, line number 07190. So we go from 7 million and 9 to from 6.4, about 8.9%, about $576,000. Is that typically, that seems like a pretty big number year on year. Is there anything in there that would cause that to be that almost double digits?
So I'm not sure, Mr. Fox, if you were in the discussion, the preliminary budget discussion when we had.
It was not.
Discussion. Okay. So what this governing body decided to do was to take some appropriations that have normally been appropriated in the sewer utility. That they're normally current fund expenditures, but over the last several years, sorry, dogs are barking. Over the last several years, some of those appropriations have been allocated to the sewer utility. It was the wish of this governing body to move those expenditures back to the current fund where they feel that they belong. They want to be able to get a clearer picture of what the actual operating costs for the sewer utility are. So we moved some of those appropriations, things like healthcare, salary and wages and so forth, back to the current fund. So that accounts for a big chunk of that increase of the $500,000 that you're referencing.
Okay. Okay. But that would then figure into the new rate, would it not? It would potentially.
So those increased expenditures, correct, we have to increase revenues on the other side of that. So in order to make up those revenues, we increased the amount of taxation.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. I don't want to be a pain in the butt, but I have one more question. Any risk management discussions around post-COVID or the rest of going into rest of 2020 on COVID, reduction in revenues or any hits, or is there any contingency in for that?
Yes, absolutely. We've made several contingencies, both in the current fund and in the beach utility, to account for decreased revenues due to COVID. So yes, those type of things are built in to the budget, as is some increased appropriations, particularly in the beach utility regarding janitorial services up at the beach, making that type of thing. So
yeah,
yes.
A lot of activity up there. Yeah, a lot of buzz. They're doing a good job. Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Sorry for the question. Sorry for so many questions.
Okay. David?
I don't see any other hands, Mayor.
Mayor?
Yes.
May I? So for anybody who was not at the budget introduction, a copy of the introduced budget is posted on our website. It had been made available all this past month to anyone who wanted copies. If the governing body chooses to adopt this budget tonight via resolution, then adopted budget will also be made available on the borough's website for anyone to view at any time.
Thank you. Okay, hearing no more public comments, we'll move to item number 10, which is the administrative report. David?
Mayor, you skipped over the approval of minutes.
My apologies. Item number 9, make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of June 23rd. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bennell? Randy?
You gave a thumbs up.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes.
Gotcha, okay. Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Engelstad?
Yes. So now is the time for agenda item number 10, the administrative report. David?
Mayor, council, public, tonight I'm going to dedicate the administrative report to an event that's happening on Saturday called Celebration Saturday. It is in conjunction with the borough as well as the Bradley Beach Business Alliance. And I know Doug Jung is on right now, and he's here to talk a little bit about what's going to take place on Saturday. Doug, if you unmute yourself.
Great, I have. Thank you, David. So good evening. I'm Doug Jung, a 20-year resident, a 2-term member of the planning board, and this year one of the dedicated men and women who are founding directors of the Bradley Beach Business Community Alliance. Tonight, I am happy and honored to make a brief announcement on the Alliance's behalf about something we've all been waiting for. That's the grand reopening of downtown Bradley Beach. I want to invite everyone to Celebration Saturday. It's coming this Saturday, July 18th, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Downtown shops and businesses will be open with sidewalk sales on and off Main Street. And celebrate where community groups will have displays and everyone's welcome to come and relax. You'll also be able to meet the Bradley Beach Business Community Alliance. We're the new nonprofit organization launched this year to help strengthen the town. Come learn more and consider joining us. It's a terrific investment in our town, our small businesses, and each other. The Alliance is grateful for the support of the mayor and council, the borough administrator, and the departments of police, public works, and tourism. Thank you all for helping the Alliance make Celebration Saturday possible. We also want to remind everyone to follow the governor's current guidelines on social distancing and face masking so we can all enjoy a safe, smart, and fun day. So with that said, we'll see you this July 18th from 11 to 5. The official reopening ceremony will be at Riley Park Bandshell at noon, followed by live music all day. Mr. Mayor, Councilman, and my fellow Bradley Beachers, hope to see you all on Celebration Saturday. It'll be a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, for this evening. That's all for the administrative report.
Okay, thank you, David. Item number 11, now is the time for public comments on agenda items with a 5-minute limit. And you'll also have the opportunity at the end of the meeting to bring forward any other issues or questions before the mayor and council at that time.
At this time, I see a Peter Sharp with his hand raised.
Hi, thank you. Peter Sharp, 301 Second Avenue. Let's see, I see that the Shade Tree Commission ordinance is up for a vote tonight. I had expressed my concerns about that ordinance when it was first introduced, and I see that the council has knocked some of the rough edges off the ordinance, but it still seems like there's a lot of overreach here in that the town is going to assume control of all trees in the town. And I guess I was hoping for something that might be a little more cooperative in nature. Maybe thinking that the Shade Tree Commission could act as a resource for homeowners who wanted to plant trees on their private property. They could provide guidance on the selection, placement, and care of trees in cooperation with the homeowner. And regarding planting strips, I guess I was hoping that the Shade Tree Commission could again be a resource reaching out to homeowners to see if there were homeowners willing to have trees planted on the strip. But this ordinance still remains very heavy-handed, very one-sided, and I just think it's going to cause a lot of friction in town, and I just hope you would vote against it. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on the topics on the agenda? Mr. Cohen.
There'll still be a public hearing on the shade tree ordinance, will there not, Mr. Brown?
Correct.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll just stick to the other things that are going on today. I had a question about the bills list, item 51-353. It's a lease payment to Pitney Bowes for $503. It appears that it's a 4-month lease payment.
Sandy, are you familiar with that? Or Erica?
Yes, I'm sorry, Sandy.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Erica.
TJ, that bill is a quarterly bill. So we get a bill quarterly on that, and it's for the months of like a 4-month lease payment. So 4 months from whatever the date the last month is on that bill, we'll get another bill 4 months later.
So that's for the lease of the machine? Because
Yes.
I remember I contested this. This was like a very expensive lease term for about $15,000 when it happened.
Okay, well, I wasn't here when it originated, but
yeah, I don't think anybody was. That's the reason I brought it up.
Okay.
And, I was just wondering if there's a more reasonable way for us to handle the postage. That was really the reason for my question.
Okay.
So I'll leave that to, the three of you. But I thought it was a lot of money when the lease was signed. My next question is I want to compliment everyone for the approval of the purchasing manual. I'm just shocked that there was no purchasing manual before, that there were no protections for the public in the building before this point, and I want to commend you for putting it together. It's a very nice document. Also, the direct deposit for employees salaries saves a lot of time and energy in this modern day and age. And I want to compliment you on bringing that forward also. I think these are all very good changes that are happening. So I'm really relieved to hear that. And thank you very much, Mayor. I'll hold the rest of them. Oh, I want to thank you on the sewers. I know that ordinance is just an introduction, but it's something that I've waited for, and I'm sure many people have for a long time. I calculated my savings on my building to be over $600 just on the sewer. I felt that I've been overcharged since 1995. And I've been told over and over, oh, it's Neptune's fault. It's the leaky pipes. It's Neptune's fault. No, not. It's too much money. And I really appreciate that the council and the professionals putting the money in the proper buckets. This is really a relief tonight to see this ordinance in the introduction, and thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, we have Ms. Greenblatt Janoff.
Hi, Shauna Greenblatt Janoff, 414 Monmouth Avenue. I wasn't actually going to originally address this, and I'm sorry that I don't know the name of the fellow who just spoke about the Shade Tree Commission, but I just want to put in my perspective that I wholly disagree with that. I think this overreach is important. It's as important as all of the other code that we have in place to preserve our town, from an environmental perspective and in terms of beautification. And I think that it's appropriate and likely that the Shade Tree Commission will serve in an advisory capacity for homeowners in terms of, any recommendations on what to plant and where on the property and in the public strips. But I think also certainly not in place of a landscape architect. So, that's a hired service. So I just want to emphasize my support for what's in the current Shade Tree Commission and what it's putting forth. I think this is really important for the future of Bradley Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, at this time, I don't see any other electronic hands.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute, Mayor. Two of them just went up. Ms. Spillman?
Thank you, David. I wanted to comment on the ordinance suggestion 2020-11 about the occupancy limits for private residences. I know the rental units have always had occupancy limits, but this is, I don't know if this happens in any place else, but I'm thinking about this is my own private home. Do I need to tell, when I want to sell my home, do I need to tell people that this is a restriction on the occupancy use of the home? It seems to me like if I know that, I have to notify people of that restriction on the use of their home if they purchase it. I'm thinking about recently, I had a family member that came down with cancer, and we had her and her son stay with us. That might, in this particular case, we had enough room to do that. But family events happen, and people may need to have someone stay in their home. I can remember as a child traveling to family members' homes and spending a summer time there, or a week or two, or whatever. And we were pretty crowded in there for that week or so that we were family together. And this prevents that from happening. And it seemed to me when we talked about this initially, this was supposed to be complaint-based. We have complaints for noise that would, handle any of that kind of problem. But the occupancy of people's private homes seems to me a bit of an overreach. And I wonder if this is done anyplace else. I've never had any place where I bought a house and was told that I could only have so many occupants in it.
Marianne, could I address that real quick?
Sure.
There's a big difference between occupancy and visitors.
What? It says over.
Occupancy is for somebody who is living there permanently.
No, it says overnight. It says overnight. That's the wording. And that, what I'm concerned about is,
No, I
That
hear
would
what
make-
you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Absolutely.
yeah, if you have overnight guests, so you have a party and people have drunk too much and you want them to spend the night, that would fall under this. You can't do that if you don't have a proper space in your home. To me, it just looks like overreach into people's private homes. And I think if it's going to be complaint-based, the ordinance ought to say that.
Mr. Mayor, can I request that the borough attorney address Ms. Spillman's concerns?
Point of order, I mean, this is the wrong time for this. There's a public hearing on this ordinance.
Okay, apologies.
Thank you. So if we could move this to the public hearing, that'd be great.
Mayor, we have one more hand.
Okay.
Kristen Mahoney.
Hi. I'm Kristen Mahoney. I took the picture of the gentleman on the beach with the karaoke machine. Some of you can't hear me?
Yes, we're right at this point in the agenda. We're only discussing items that are on the agenda. So at the end of the meeting is basically, you can bring up anything else that's not on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that part. I was looking at the agenda. Didn't see that written on the agenda.
That's okay.
Okay. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Thank you. No further hands, Mayor.
All right. At this time, I'll make a motion to I'm going to ask Sandy to walk us through, Sandy or David to walk us through ordinance 2020-12. You guys can fight over it.
All Sandy.
What, you want me to go, Dave?
Yes, please.
So in discussion with the governing body, and as was built into the 2020 budget, the governing body has discussed reducing the amount of revenue that the borough takes in for sewer rents. In other words, what homeowners and businesses pay for the sewer system. Normally flat rates, unless you get into, multiple units within a housing unit, or like businesses like laundromats would pay per machine. Restaurants would pay for restroom facilities, that type of thing. But basically the rates are based on flat fees. Discussion with the governing body, I was asked to look at those rates and reduce them by 15%. We did some preliminary, numbers, quick math, easy 15%. They ended up coming up with pennies attached to them. So I rounded the formulas to the next nearest dollar. So you can see in the sewer ordinance that they're round numbers. But upon approval of this ordinance, the sewer rates for 2020 would be reduced. And the ordinance states that this would take effect July 1st. But because of the billing cycle and because of the 2020 bills have already gone out, what residents and business owners can expect to see is an adjustment in the fourth quarter of this year. It takes some time to get the ordinance in place. We're only having an introduction of that ordinance tonight. We have to have a public hearing and then adoption. So by the time everything gets in place and the sewer collector makes the adjustments in our financial system, it'll probably be pretty close to the fourth quarter anyway, where you would see those reductions.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to introduce ordinance 2020-12, an ordinance amending chapter 380 sewers of the borough's revised general ordinances at section 380-9, annual rental charges to reduce and lower sewer rates for property owners within the borough of Bradley Beach. Is there a second?
Second. All of it.
Mr. Benel?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Engelstad?
Yes. Ordinance 2020-13 is our annual stormwater management plan. David, do you want to add anything to this?
Now I'm going to defer to Borough Attorney Greg Cannon if he wants to say anything towards this.
Sure, thank you, David. So the stormwater ordinance was prepared by Mr. Avakian's office, your borough engineer. The stormwater rules for DEP have changed in chapter 7:8. We must update our ordinances to comport with those new regulations. So the borough engineer put together all those regulations into a form for me. And then I integrated them into your borough code per the ordinance that you have in front of you. With respect to the technical specifications of impervious things and stuff like that, I couldn't answer your questions, but in terms of the mechanics and the logistics and legalities of why we're doing this, I can certainly answer any questions the governing body has. I also note that there is a deadline, I believe in March of 2021, to have adopted our ordinances to comport with the state guidelines according to your borough engineer. And so that's where we're at this moment. If anybody has any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them, provided they're not technical in nature.
Okay, at this time, I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 2020-13 with regards to stormwater management. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Engelstad?
Yes, ordinance 2020-14. I'm going to ask David Brown, our borough administrator, to walk us through the reason for this ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. From time to time, the borough will take on this ordinance and make adjustments as necessary. This is our, it could become annual, but it is a salary ordinance which has all of the salaries of borough employees and officers that are not in collective bargaining agreements. Those you'll see later on in the agenda, but this is the salaries from the governing body, administration, clerk, finance. This ordinance has been reviewed by myself, the CFO, and all the other department heads, and is presented tonight for introduction.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mayor, may I just add something?
Sure.
I just wanted to make the point of letting you know that the way that the sewer ordinance currently reads, if it is presenting it, looks very different from previous ordinances for the appropriations. That's how your salary ordinances read in the past. In the sewer utilities, part of it would lie in the beach utility. This salary ordinance just these. So that's just something that I wanted to point out. That's very different in the looks of this ordinance.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
If I can ask a question, Mr. Mayor, there was a late change to this ordinance, or we got another version and didn't have the time to compare. So what was the difference between what we got a few days ago and what was sent more recently? Does anybody
Council
know?
President, there was 3 changes. We struck the band shell attendant.
Does anybody
Council
know?
President, there was 3 changes. We struck the band shell attendant. We added back, because I omitted the longevity for the lifeguards after 10+ years. That was based on Dick Johnson's recommendation. And Sean, our recreation director, said he had no knowledge of a band shell attendant, so we struck that one. And then the third one to max.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
Establishment of certain salaries of certain officers and employees of the borough of Bradley Beach. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Engelstad?
Yes. Now we move into the 3 ordinances that are up for final hearing adoption. The first one is the aforementioned 2020-9 with regards to commissions and committees. I make a motion to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose,
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Engelstein.
Yes, instances in this where it references employees, and I thought we were going to get that out. Employees, if any, shall be fixed by the commission in accordance with the purposes pursuant to section 24. That is some 30 with the clerks and other employees of the commission, as well as two members. I believe it should stop there, and we should delete and any of its duly authorized agents or employees. That's my opening statement with regards to this proposed ordinance. And so Greg, if that's something that I wanted to introduce.
Change, Mayor, before I render an opinion.
Also references the 425-2 under the definition of commission. I would like to see those references deleted.
To employees.
Mr. Mayor, too, I know this came up earlier, and I agree with you. I don't think anyone has an expectation there would be employees. I think, Mr. Cannon, when this came with leaving it as, and I could be wrong, but
We've done this before, I think.
well, there was some reference to employees, if any, striking the wording of their agents, because if they hire a tree expert, for example, I don't know if that tree expert would be considered.
May further appropriate. Forgive me, Mayor. I'm just looking at it real quick. I'm not staring at the screen blankly.
Thank you.
After commission.
What's that up there? What's that?
If any, thereafter, the if any wasn't there. So we would have to insert if any in third, if that, I mean, the last time any. So we would need to insert that in 24. By the way, none of that would be a substantive change. Main places, as it may require N and E. So that's what it was. We corrected B, but it didn't carry to D, E, or 425-2. You're correct, Mayor. Thank you. Sorry about that. I had to get oriented because I didn't have it open in front of me.
But Mr. Mayor, I guess the question is that sufficient, or would you like the entire reference dropped?
Well, I mean, I guess my question is, can we trust ourselves or future bodies to make sure that ours does or should have?
That's where we ended up, if I recall, on the if any, because we weren't sure how we were going to fill that. It might not be. I think everyone agreed it wasn't going to be new employees, but whether they were a current employee or a contractor, I think was where we landed on the if any, as I recall.
Okay, it's not worth beating to death. So if we just added the if any in 24.
Do that for the clerk to publish, and that is a non-substantive change.
Okay.
We have been paying had a fairly substantial list of recommendations from the planning board, most of which we were able to address and incorporate into this version of the ordinance. So that too much, but I just wanted to acknowledge that we have been very interested in listening to the public and try to strike the right balance in terms of being able to protect these natural resources, but also protect the rights of property owners.
Okay, Mayor, first up is Peter.
Okay, got an air conditioner going. At least the A that's not crossed out. No person shall prevent a violation of this article as a separate and distinct offense from the violation of chapter 425 of this code. Only when the violator 425 of this code, only when the violator commits any overt act associated with this that is over and above anything else of all the other fines and fees that are in this proposed ordinance. My understanding about code enforcement, and if someone is a legal person here, they can not delaying, that person is not outside of their rights. The code enforcer must go to a municipal judge, and then and only then can someone come on your property from the town and look around and decide that you've been monkeying around with your own trees. What bothers me about this, and very important, this appears to say that if you show any kind of reticence to the commission, you're going to be fined $1,000. I think particularly private property for public use. And that's a very, it's going to make neighbor versus neighbor, people ratting on someone who might have cut down a tree, and then so on and so on and so on. When you get on private property, you have these issues. But anyway, going back to that particular area, I find that
HAP has been depleted through poor management systems over the years. I'm very excited about the council possibly, budgeting for 30 trees to be planted every year in the planting stream and the residents to really create more opportunities in terms of private property rights. If you really want to see something, you should read the Howell Township Woodlands Ordinance. I've had intimate knowledge of that, and it's very egregious to anyone. But you know what? It is the message that Howell Township wants to send, that they want to maintain their woodland.
Okay, then I'll make